Okay, all right. So I think let's begin with doing a quick market analysis. So let's begin with Bill. Kind of tell us from your perspective what's happening in crypto in the last 1 week with Bitcoin and Ethereum for you to also do any TA.
Certainly. So let me bring this up real quick. So this week I decided to focus on, like what just happened? Like what did we all just go through? Okay. So this chart I came across, the chart that's going from the bottom left to the top right, that's home sales. And the sort of yellow line that's collapsing, that is U.S. homes inventory. Now you're like, why are you showing me this on a crypto show? Well, because one of the ways I know a couple smart people make a living in crypto is just by following a whale's footprint, big picture. And I know crypto just got totally stupid. The whole altcoin thing was so kind of overdone. But I'm wondering if all it is selling was people who just unloaded assets, took the gains, and rolled it over in a house to get out of big urban areas. Like I know in the area that I'm in, $200,000 houses are trading for $400,000. So we moved the bubble from crypto to housing. Now, when that happened, if you're looking at this little arrow here in Ethereum, they smacked it down to like 333, which, has been an inflection point a couple of times, right? Was the bottom in 2017 and the top in 2018 and 2019. So I know there's probably a couple of reasons to not like crypto at the moment, particularly with fear in equities. I'm not going to freak out because big support held in Ethereum. Now, when you look at Bitcoin, right, I like to do diagonal and horizontal resistances and supports. And if you look at Bitcoin on a 2-week basis, I had this big level of 10,400 that came from like the work of William Gann. I do it by hand. Okay. So the fact that it popped above 10,400 was encouraging. And I think in order to really get excited, it's got to take out 10,750. So we'll see. Okay. But at least crypto took the big punch of everybody going, oh no, I got to take profits and buy a house. Now, your preview for next week. Okay. This is LQD. Okay. And LQD is a corporate bond ETF. So not junk bonds, but like good corporate bonds. And one of the things in legacy that, everyone's like, ooh, look out, is corporate bankruptcies, right? Because we all know the legacy world's got big problems. There's only question is, is the Fed glossing it all over? Okay. Now, I suspect that if corporate bonds start to break down, that may or may not hurt stocks, but it probably won't be good for crypto. So if you're a crypto person, you're praying that stocks and corporate bonds don't fall apart and don't become a disaster. Right? I know everyone's looking at stocks, but then I thought and I brought it up last week, and then I thought to myself, wait a minute, everyone's looking at the same thing. So maybe let's look at something different. All right. Now, the US dollar. Okay. This is also going to be a good story. So Elliott Wave, Elliott Wave is, kind of like, and your elbows, everyone's got 2 counts. Everyone's got 2. This is what I drew, that you may be headed for a possible dollar top. But then I also read something that traders who are short the dollar, they didn't cover on the last upswing. They doubled up. Scary, right? Dollar upside is bad for crypto. All right. So what's my bottom line? Well, got to be careful that the October surprise is not a dollar spike and a bond market crisis. I'm willing to be positive to big cryptos. I don't believe in chasing really small stuff, but I'm going to stay a tentative positive on things like Bitcoin and Ethereum. That's it.
So bullish big cryptos not so, basically bearish altcoins, short term, you would
No,
say.
I think you can buy dips in altcoins, assuming the market doesn't fall apart. I just don't think you should be chasing 40% rallies. We're back to where we were like 6 months ago, right? Where, you know, we all say FOMOing in doesn't work, but you know, don't chase stuff up 20%. It's not going to work from a trading point of view at all.
Yeah. All right. Anybody with any comments or questions? Coach K, Ohe Maddie, Pedro, anybody want to chime in?
Yeah, I mean, I think it makes sense. For me, you know, I'm very bearish. I finally got my bear signal on this rally. We're going to see some sort of correction. It's interesting that the GAN levels kind of have like a fallout below that 10.4 all the way down to sub 3. I'm a big believer in saying nothing's impossible. I'm looking for a 7.4K retracement here. Try and hit that 7K floor again and then bounce out of here. But until the election stuff gets out of the way and we see what the debt ceiling fight really looks like heading into December, since we kicked that can down the road, I just think that we bleed out for some time. We see an increase in COVID-related fear being propagated into the market. You know, I think not to get into the politics too deep, but it is relevant. I think you have two candidates who both are idiots in their own right, and you know, people are a little hesitant on either side, but that's really going to dictate the flow of the market. You know, people just feel like when Trump's in power, the market has to go up, and they feel like when Biden takes over, that's going to be pretty scary because they're going to have to face capital gains threats from that perspective. But right now, we're having a nice consolidation in the indecision area. We're coming back up to test that 11K range, but I think it's only a matter of time until we break down into the 7 to 9K range, and then from there, it's a decision if we want to go into some sort of deathward spiral due to mining. Like, I think that crypto is a buoy on a large sinking ship, and even though it's your life raft, it's pretty hard to stay afloat when the whole thing is sinking. So that was a great analysis.
All right, Coach K, what's your take on the market?
My take is that not much has changed from last week. I mean, I see some bullish signs that Bill's talking about, but I see like weakness in terms of like the volume is kind of dropping off. The price action is going up, a little bit of a divergence there. I would like to see at that same level, that's 10.75. It seems like it's struggling to get above it. It kind of tries to get above it and goes below and goes up and goes down. So I'm curious to see how Monday plays out. If the DXY does stay bullish, then I think we could see some real interesting times coming up for sure. So, I mean, I can share a chart to show what I'm talking about here, just to give you guys some perspective on where I'm at.
Yeah, please go ahead.
But yes, give me 1 second. And I'm just, there's also some data that I've come across as well that that's also quite interesting. So I'm just going to do double screen here. So we have DXY. It's potentially coming up to an edge to edge. And like, if we have a bullish Chiku span, so I trade on the Ichimoku. So I'm seeing like, you know, a very bullish movement. Yes, it could be topping out here. I don't have my level there, but it could be topping out in this level. But we have a TK cross here. We have all the setup for an edge to edge, potentially going up to 96.5, which would, as Bill said, be very bad for Bitcoin and for all cryptos. And, you know, then we have Bitcoin with this volume that just keeps tapering down, and the weekend volume is very, very weak. I mean, it's closing in an hour. So I'm not really feeling these candlesticks here, a hangman at resistance, pretty much a shooting star at resistance. Now this doji, it's telling me that we're going to go up anytime soon, but you know, anything can happen, like Maddie said. So I'm looking at these two together and going, okay. And then I'm also looking at this data, right? So the historical average, September is usually a bad month. October is usually a good month, but we also know that October and September October is a worse month in election years, but this is more in the traditional markets.
It's either flat or bad. I actually saw, I think, BitBoy and Bill's discussion in last week's episode about that. I had to go back and take a look. It was obviously heavily dependent on market sentiment. Obviously, if you're in a bear market, September was just bear across the board. But I think if you were in like a somewhat bull trend from 2016 going up. It was more just like either flat or slightly bearish.
Yeah, one thing that's quite interesting is Bitcoin Cash. You know, people are like, why Bitcoin Cash? So
Let's go.
what again?
I said, let's go. Bitcoin Cash.
So I know a lot of us don't like it from a subjective view, but the thing about it is they have potentially a halving, not a halving, a fork. So there's some internal stuff going on within Bitcoin Cash, and it might create two tokens. And so it's something that we're going to have a snapshot in November, and no one knows for sure, but it's been very much hinted that there could be a second coin. There could be like a Bitcoin SV, a Bitcoin ABC type deal within Bitcoin Cash yet again, because of the whole Coinbase issue, where they're giving a bunch of the mined Bitcoin Cash is going towards dev fund. It's like 8% or something of it.
Roger tried to force them to, which is ironic, but Roger tried to force them to incentivize developers to get paid to work on Bitcoin Cash. And the community was like, what the hell are you doing? Like, this is completely opposite of why we came here. So now there's a big back and forth, which, by the way, to Roger's credit, he's now receded that point. But once you open the can of worms in a community that's already ready to strike on opportunity, you know, it's just a slippery slope.
Mm-hmm. So, I mean, I think potentially just because of that, and, you know, we have to watch the market, obviously, but I think that's why this is starting to have a little bit of it's not really broke out or anything. And it looks like it's trying to reclaim the 21-day EMA, but I am looking at Bitcoin Cash going, maybe this could definitely lead into some people buying to get a second coin. You know, Bitcoin Cash, Bitcoin SV made a lot of people money, just because, you know, two coins, if you held on both, you'd make really good profit. So Bitcoin Cash is one to keep on your radar for sure because of that. And that's just more of a fundamental reason. But watch the chart and see if it reclaims the 21-day EMA. Watch to see, you know, how it reacts in the next couple weeks, because November is when that snapshot's happening. And as we all know, because we've all been here, generally when you have a second coin, people buy now and they wait and they let it go and they let people buy in to get that second coin, and they sell before that happens or right after. So keep your eyes on all those things. I'll let someone else have a turn now.
Yeah. All right. Great stuff, Coach K. Pedro, what's your take on the market?
Yeah, I think I have to agree with everybody. I think my short-term, vision is bearish, to be honest. Again, until the election, I think there will be volatility for sure, and I think it will be to the downside. Let me share my screen. Yeah, there we go. Boom. Right. Yeah, can you see my screen?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm going to show a bit of some different indicators, the ones that I've tried to look into, which are on chain basically. So in terms of addresses, it's the trend is clearly downwards. I'll dig into each one of these indexes, but basically what they show is that it's not looking good. Well, especially for Bitcoin. So in terms of addresses, it's dropping a lot. Yeah, if you come here to take a look, although it was growing, since last year, since September, I think, yeah, since September they started to drop. So I think the trend is, we'll see that some of these Bitcoin, I think that, that we're losing, we're not only losing into, for example, different markets, as Bill was saying, but we're also, some of it is also going into Ethereum, for example, because you can see that in terms of Ethereum, on-chain exchange activity, for example, it's going a lot. So, and I think some of it at least comes from Bitcoin. Although the trend, for example, in terms of addresses and usage, it's also going down in Ethereum, which I thought it was a bit surprising considering we're still in hype, I would say. But Ethereum, I don't think it does. It looks that as bad as Bitcoin. The only good thing is in terms of Bitcoin, well, the fees are going down, but the difficulty is going up, which is I think it's a good sign. Although for the past again, the last month it dropped a bit, as I think miners were also leaving because the fees and the revenue started to drop. So obviously miners need to leave. But I think the long-term trend, I think it will remain a bit bullish. I think in the long term. But again, up until the election, I think it's quite hard to know what's going to happen. I would say that, you know, testing the 7K floor, I agree with that. I think it's quite possible. I'm not sure if it's going to happen, but you know, on-chain indicators also don't look, you know, as good as I would like, at least. Yeah.
I think to add on to the on-chain indicators,
Yeah.
I'm seeing a major correlation break between a lot of Uniswap specific altcoins that are riding a mixture of kind of like degen marketing hype and lack of arbitrage opportunity for healthy volume. So I'm seeing, like, you know, when we had that big bear drop or whatever, a number of coins that I had my assets in, you can call them like penny stock hippie crack type deals, which are just like super low, you know, low liquidity staked in, but still decent volume for Uniswap in general, a few million, et cetera, over a 24-hour period. I was noticing that the price on none of my assets were really dropping. I was making tons of money while we were kind of going through a multi-day bear drop from 12K down to, you know, 10K. So I think that that's really interesting to see the effect that maybe, you know, arbitrage or forex exchanges are having on some of the more, I guess, you know, blue chip coins and how they bleed out into some bigger alts. And while the lower alts aren't really getting hatcheted like you would have saw in like 2017, where we didn't have this infrastructure built out for on-chain liquidity.
Yeah, I completely agree with that, especially because if you look at the trend, for example, at the DeFi Pulse, it's still, you know, clearly going up. We did have a setback, you know, in the beginning of September, but the trend is still, you know, going up. It's close, like, you know, to 11 billion total value locked. So I think, you know, it still means that people are putting money into it. So they're betting on unknown coins or DeFi coins, whatever. Yeah, clearly.
All right, thank you, Pedro. So here, let me also kind of share our perspective looking at the data. So let me pull up Token Metrics. So when it comes to the short-term trading data, actually our TA is neutral at the moment when it comes to Bitcoin and Ethereum. However, just kind of in terms of anybody, if you are looking to possibly look into getting an entry, not now and probably in the next month or so, could be a possible opportunity, right? Because in terms of the scores we've ever scored historically speaking for traders for Bitcoin, it's pretty high, right? Now, obviously the TA is not bullish yet, but we think this could be definitely a big moment of truth. Now, for value investors, kind of the same thing, right? Pretty much it's neutral on Bitcoin. Even the price predictions are pretty neutral. They think Bitcoin and Ethereum are probably going to be going sideways for the next month or so. So if we go to the 30-day price prediction on Bitcoin, so right now Bitcoin is about 10,700, and we have it going as low as about 10,100 before possibly going back to where it is. So pretty much it's just going to be flat, essentially, is what our price prediction says. Then if we go to Ethereum, pretty much the same thing, pretty much kind of thinking it's just going to go flat, be pretty flat. Bill, also earlier this week in our newsletter, you basically kind of said that if Ethereum would hold, I believe, 345 and Bitcoin, was it 10,400? Could you maybe kind of comment on that?
333 Ethereum and 10.4 in Bitcoin.
Yeah. So, I mean, pretty much right now, just kind of long story short, neutral, not quite bullish, not quite bearish in the short term. I think we kind of have to wait and see how things kind of progress. But as we get closer to the election, I definitely do get more concerned with what could possibly happen. All right, so definitely tell us what you think. Are you bullish on Bitcoin and crypto as we head into October, or are you bearish, or are you also neutral? Tell us what you think down in the comments below.